Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reinventing Mental Health. Today, we have with us Matt Melvin. We are going to hear a little bit from Matt about his story and his experience because he has been on a journey. Matt, tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about the experiences that you've had because this is kind of wild.
I was born in Kingsboro, Massachusetts in 1981. My parents decided to make the unfortunate decision to migrate north in 1988, despite the fact that we had a really good, solid friendship, good group of people in Kingsboro. One of my closest friends, Barbara, who has been a mentor for me for most of my life, lived there.
Okay.
I had a best friend that lived behind me, and then the school bully that lived right next to us. So it was sort of a dichotomy of good and evil. But my dad got a job in 1988 and we moved up to Vermont. It was a huge mistake. It's very isolating in Vermont. It's hard to make friends and people are just not really in general friendly at all.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I wrote a book called Bullied Behind Bars, a gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison. And it chronicles my life from growing up in Kingsboro to how I ended up in prison twice, being bullied behind bars, and then coming out on the other side, having a near-death experience on 495 where I was almost killed by an out-of-control driver. And that was the moment that I turned my life over to God, stopped being dishonest, lying, and stealing, and started doing what God intended for me to do instead of what I want to do.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What led you to prison the first time?
I worked at a car dealership, Freedom Nissan, in South Burlington, Vermont. They didn't pay me my commissions. I impulsively tried to sell one of their cars, got caught. Judge Jeffrey Crawford and Bob Wolford both decided I didn't meet the criteria to go through the mental health court. As a result, I went through the traditional court, which resulted in 18 months in jail and a criminal record. If I was allowed to go through the mental health court, I may not have a record today. As a result, I couldn't find a job. In 2009, I used other people's information to work. The government then sued me for 6 years, despite the fact that there's a 5-year statute of limitations. Got a grand jury indictment in 2016, and I did another 18 months, this time in federal prison. And that's where I really wrote my story.
Okay.
Because I went to 10 different institutions. They didn't know what to do with me. I was chronicling my story, writing it down, writing a lot of grievances, which is the complaint system in jail.
So walk me through some of the bullying that you experienced. Like, was that in the first prison experience or the second prison experience or both of them?
It was in both of them.
Okay. What were some of those huge moments that really impacted you?
Being raped the second time as an initiation for various members to get into the Aryan Brotherhood. In order to get initiated into a gang, you have to commit a violent act. That was the worst. But also, I was assaulted by a sex offender in a unit I was at that was supposed to be protection. But a lot of these mental health units are really for sex offenders. And so I got labeled as a sex offender really when I'm absolutely not.
So what happened in that process? Like, how exactly did that occur?
The individual punched me in the face. And that was an interesting turn of events because I ended up being the victim in a criminal case against this individual. So I was now on the other side. So I think it's very rare that somebody has both an experience as a defendant and as a victim for the prosecution. But I think it's important to note that when you're assaulted in prison, you are not treated anywhere near like you are treated as a victim if it's on the outside.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that state usually pays for travel expenses. This actually happened in Dover, New Hampshire, which is 4 hours from me, one way. But because it happened behind bars, they would not pay for my travel. I was at a halfway house in Albany, so it was even farther.
Oh, wow. So you went all the way in New York?
That was the closest halfway house to where I live. There are no halfway houses in Vermont.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And for your viewers who don't know what a halfway house is, every person that goes through the federal system, before they can get released to the streets, they have to go through a halfway house. And a halfway house is a house in a neighborhood with a fence around it. Unless you know it's a halfway house, it looks, feels, has the presence of a regular house, except the people in there are just getting out of prison.
Okay. All right. So along this entire process, like obviously the being raped, that is an absolutely horrific experience. What were other forms of bullying that you went through while going through this process?
In Essex, New York, the inmates lied to the guards and told them that I tried to proposition them. The inmates would then put a large table in front of my door so I couldn't come out. And when I tried to get the attention of the guards, instead of disciplining the individuals that did this, they put me in solitary confinement. I was locked in for 23 hours a day. One point, they denied me my medication because I was writing a lot of grievances to hold them accountable. Look, they held me accountable for my actions, and now it's time for the facilities to be held accountable for their actions.
Right.
They took me out of my cell, brought me to the attorney-client room, had 4 guards surround me with their body cameras on, and asked me what my end game to writing all these grievances. They seemed to be under the impression that I was going to get out of jail for free by writing all these grievances, when in fact, there's only 3 ways to get out of jail: body bag, pardon by the president, or your sentence is finished. Those are the only 3 ways. Other than that, there are no other ways to get out of prison. You can write 1,000 grievances. That's not going to make a difference.
Okay. So not only were inmates bullying you, but guards were.
It was a huge problem. When I was in Dover, the same facility I was raped in, the guards actually confiscated my journal entries. They were very scared about a potential liability.
Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine. This just sounds atrocious to me. Were you mostly being bullied? Because I know that your book, you're talking about the fact that you're gay and then you're also a Trump supporter. Was most of the bullying around the fact that you were gay, or around your political affiliation, or a little bit of both?
I would say a combination of that, and the fact that I didn't fit into the typical inmate criteria. Most inmates that are in prison are druggies, dealing drugs, and they all know each other. So here this white guy comes in and nobody knows who he is. That's a red flag.
So they were making assumptions about who you were and what you were doing there.
And labeling me as a sex offender.
Why did they keep labeling you as a sex offender? What was the premise for that? And then what was their end goal?
Their end goal was to have me killed. I mean, that's what my belief is, their end game.
Okay.
The reason they labeled me as a sex offender was because they, in my opinion, I just want to preface this is my opinion. Right. A lot of people believe that most gay people are sex offenders, when in fact, most sex offenders are male, white, straight men.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your book. What is it called?
Bullied Behind Bars, a gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison.
Okay. And where's this available?
Yes, it's available on Amazon. You can visit my website, bulliedbehindbars.com. You can follow me on social media, Bullied Behind Bars on Instagram, Bars Bullied on X, matthew.melvin.5621 on Facebook. And you can email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com.
Okay. So how long has it been since you were last in prison?
8 years.
Okay. So what is going on now in the legal department for you? Are you going after any specific lawsuits regarding all of the things that did happen?
That's a good question. The reality is, when you have convictions that involve deceit and dishonesty,
Mhm.
it's a huge uphill battle. And
Okay.
most attorneys are not going to want to wage that factor.
That's unfortunate. Nobody, I mean, we all still have rights to be treated like we're a human being, no matter what has occurred in the past. And as you said, you have found God and you have changed. So, actually, tell us a little bit about your journey there. How did you find God through this process?
It was right before a little under a year before I was indicted in 2016. I had a near-death experience driving on 495 where I was almost killed by an out-of-control driver. And my life was a mess. And I was sick and tired and telling one story and trying to remember who I told what story to whom. It's a lot easier to live honestly then you don't have to have a good memory. That was the moment when I almost was killed that I realized that God was looking out for me. And God was telling me, in my opinion, he was drawing the line in the sand. Either you're going to start doing my will or you're done. I've had enough of you. You know, I look at it like Saul, right? Saul had 15 years to repent of his sins, and Saul would not repent. Saul was told, get rid of the Amalekites, get rid of all the plunder, get rid of the animals. And what did Saul do? He kept the leader of the Amalekites, he kept the plunder, and he kept the livestock. We as Christians cannot try to negotiate with God. It's either you're going to do it 100% God's way or not. 90% obedience is 100% disobedience, Mary.
What does life look like for you today?
It's still challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I have tools, which I didn't have way back then, that I'm able to deal with the impulsivity, because that's the shadow of being autistic and being on the Asperger spectrum. And I don't care, you know, I could see 100 doctors. No medication is going to fix that. And every medication that you take has side effects. And so I would caution anybody who wants to go to a doctor and get prescribed something, that could lead to addiction. And if you have addiction, then you can't have God. So it's a very fine line.
Sorry, my cat has decided she's going to come join our conversation. I'm going to make sure that I gather all of your contact information and the link for your book so that we can make sure that we share all of that for our viewers. For you, would you say that the largest turning point and the biggest lesson that you've learned is what brought you to God, and today that has improved your life?
No question. And the other thing I will add is that because I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement, I was sharpening my saw. I was studying my Bible, praying, fasting, exercising. That all of these disciplines have made it 100% easier for me to do on the outside. I have a lot of friends that struggle with all of that because they haven't been in prison. They're in a prison in their mind. They've never actually been in a physical prison, which I think is a lot worse, being in a physical prison, or I'm sorry, being in a mental prison than an actual physical prison. Look at it this way. We all have the same 24 hours a day. It's how we use each of those hours. And I remember there was a famous person that said in the 1960s that TV is a complete and utter waste of time. And it is. It's not changed in 70 years. It's still the same.
I almost think it's worse. I believe that there are too many people that are so addicted to TV and also things like video games, and they just can't pull themselves out and they can't handle the real world.
Yeah. One important lesson that I learned from dealing with a lot of addicts is they always have this saying, I just need one more time and then I'll stop. And that's how human beings act. Just one more time and then I'll stop. And it never stops. So stop saying, I'm going to do it one more time, or all I need is one more fix, and just fix the problem right now, today, because we don't know if we're going to have tomorrow. The only guarantees in life are death and taxes.
So what is one big mind shift that you think would help somebody who is dealing with those types of addictions and just can't drop them?
You are who you surround yourself with. So if you are surrounding yourself with other people that are struggling with drugs or alcohol, there's no way you're going to get out of it. You need to surround yourself with people that are out of it. If you're broke and you surround yourself with other broke people, you'll always be broke. A friend of mine, he's struggling with finding a relationship, but he struggled with being addicted to a drug. And he's surrounding himself. He's finding women to date that are all addicted to drugs. He needs to get out of that. That's not a good environment. So we are who we surround ourselves to be. If I want to surround myself with good people, I surround myself with a strong fellowship of Christian brothers for men and Christian sisters if you're a woman, because you need to fellowship with your same gender.
And community is massively important. We know that from all of the studies, whether they're mental health studies or physical health studies. The people that you surround yourself with determine everything about your life, how happy you are, how healthy you are, how long you live, all of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're surrounding yourself with positive people, you will be positive. And I encourage each of your viewers to do that. And if you are isolating and thinking and being downtrodden on your life, you need to stand in the mirror and say, I love you, I love you. And until you love yourself, you can't love another person.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
And I try to surround myself with other men that are working on themselves. Men that are saying, I've got it, nothing's wrong with me, I have no interest in engaging with, because there's no such thing. Men and women should always be working on themselves. There's always work, there's always things that we can improve on. Men and women that will hold you accountable. Don't find people that will just say, yes, nothing's wrong with you. There's this saying in Christianity called itchy ears, and it means you just want to hear how wonderful we are, what a pleasure it is to be in our company, and we don't really want the hard truth. The hard truth is what we need to improve.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I want to give people sugar-coated lies, because that's all it is lying to somebody. And I've been around groups of people that are surrounded by very well-off people. And you know what they do? They just kiss up to them. Oh, so amazing. It's like, why are you doing this? It's so that they'll bring you into their little circle?
Yeah. No, that's unfortunate. Okay. Well, I am so happy that we had the opportunity to talk. Please make sure that I do get all of your links. I'll reach out and just make sure that I have all of those. I want to make sure that everybody has the link for your book for sure. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. And for all of our viewers, please remember to like, share, and subscribe and follow